I'm Neil Dougherty with North Country Whitetails, and I want to talk to you a little bit about probably one of the most groundbreaking tools for deer hunters in the last 20 or 30 years, and that's trail cameras. And I know a lot of you are probably already using trail cameras out there, but they are an incredible tool when it comes to determine how you can pinpoint a deer that you're trying to hunt. There's probably no greater challenge, or no greater thrill for that matter, than targeting an individual buck on a piece of property for harvest during the course of the fall. There's nothing like trying to get inside a whitetail and spending 20 or 30 days getting inside his head to determine where he's going to be, the type of food sources that he uses, right down to the exact trail that he's going to use in the time of the day. And really the only way you can do that effectively is either through long distance scouting with spotting scopes or binoculars, and quite frankly very few properties will allow you to peer at a deer from a long distance away without him observing you, and then you as a hunter to get back out during preceding scouting, things like that, without alerting the deer to your presence, or using trail cameras. Now most of us are using trail cameras for what I call the beauty pageant. We get the camera set up, we take pictures, we email it to all of our buddies, but that's as far as we go. And there's a lot more data you can gather with your trail cameras. Let's talk about how to use a trail camera to kill a specific whitetail. Step one, determine where he is and where he's using a piece of property. Start by putting your trail cameras in and around either a social gathering area or what I call a destination food source. That could be an acorn flat, it could be a cornfield or a soybean field. Put the camera out in a spot where a lot of deer gather, and then look for that buck that really trips your trigger that fall. Once you identify where the buck is, you're going to have to stay with him for a while. If you photographed a buck during the months of April through August on a feed source like an alfalfa field or a soybean field, keep in mind that buck is going to shift terrain and shift food sources once he hits the month of September on through the fall. Deer require protein in their diet April through August, and that can be found in soybeans or alfalfa fields, a lot of your forb fields or grain fields, and then they go into energy foods come fall or during the hunting season. So look for that shift. Energies can be soybeans, the bean pods themselves, corn, acorns or any kind of hard mast, or even apples or fruits on your property. Once you determine that buck where he goes during that initial shift from the early season foods to the fall foods that you're going to have to hunt him on during the hunting season, and you know where he is, now it's time to start what we call triangulating that buck. You know he shows up every 1 or 2 nights on a specific food source. It's time to start walking him back with the cameras, and by that I mean get the cameras back 200, 300, 400 yards away from that food source on ridges, on funnels, and look for him as he passes through. We're trying to determine where the buck beds and then how he accesses the food plots of that food source. A couple different things you need to pay attention to when you see the deer. First off, every time you photograph him, mark the direction that he's going and also determine the time of day that he's walking through that area. If you're using your trail cameras properly, as you work back farther and farther from the food source, you'll start to determine that a buck can be very patternable on a certain trail where he's showing up during daylight hours. That's pretty key. For most of you running cameras, you probably know your biggest deer show up on the fields well after dark. So we're looking for a spot where you can go and hunt him where it's going to be daylight hours and you have a chance of actually harvesting him during the fall. So the trail cameras are an incredible tool for triangulation. Get your aerial map, document every place that you have photographed, where you've seen the deer and the direction that he moves. During the course of a 2 or 3 week window, some cases it's a little bit shorter, you're going to pinpoint the corridor that the buck moves through. And once you have your corridor determined, it's time now to attack with your hunting stance. Keep in mind, these cameras are the silent scouter. The 24/7, they're taking pictures, they're not leaving scent in the woods. This is the best way to determine where your buck's going to be on your properties in the fall.